Can you say a little bit about what led to your development of RDI, the Resource Development and Installation Protocol, and what made you believe it could work?
Resource development installation grew out of one of my treatment failures. I tell the story about this case in a book chapter in a book edited by Phil Manfield, the case book of EMDR. It's called Lifting the Burden of Shame. It's the story of Meredith. And I won't belabor the case story here, but this young woman came to me with a complex set of co-occurring disorders, including some medical conditions that made her not a good candidate for the standard EMDR protocol. And I deferred offering it to her, but she saw the certificates appearing on the wall of my office, indicating my training and my growing status in the EMDR world, and demanded that I treat her with EMDR. And as I anticipated, she did not respond well. She had a problem with intense shame. She grew up in a family without supportive parents, with verbally abusive and neglectful parents. Physical needs were taken care of, but her emotional needs had not been met. And whenever emotional material was activated, she would go into what I called a shame meltdown, hiding her face in her hands, weeping silently for 20, 30, 40 minutes at a time. And everything that I tried to do to pull her out of those shame meltdowns failed. And this had gone on for a couple of years. I didn't really invent the thing that's called RDI. I gave it a name, and I came up with a standardized way of using it. Similar ideas had been proposed by other people. The idea of focusing on some kind of positive experience or some kind of a positive symbol, like Ron Martinez talked about kids and having them think about superheroes, and then installing the feeling they had about the superhero to help them feel stronger about themselves and being able to face their fears. And other people had proposed this idea, but they had done it in fragmentary ways or in very narrow populations. And after one of several failed EMDR sessions that had melted down and we couldn't proceed, the next week Meredith came in and told me about a dream that she'd had, and it was what I call a consolidation dream. It had some positive images in it, with some hopeful dream imagery. And I asked her if she was willing to focus on the dream images and strengthen them with some eye movements. And so that's what we did. And she responded very positively to that. And we then did a series of imagery exercises where she accessed internal images, a lion-like figure for courage, an old woman for self-acceptance and compassion for self, just a whole series of very spontaneous images that came up through imagery. And I installed a series of these exercises with her over the space of about 45 minutes. And when she came in the next week, I almost didn't recognize her. She suffered from a lupus-type condition that had left her with chronic physical pain. She often walked with a limp and sometimes needed a cane. She had chronic insomnia. She would wake up in the middle of the night, could never get back to sleep. She didn't tolerate medications. She struggled in relationships with men, had trouble with boundaries and assertiveness in social situations. And when she came in the next week, the first thing that she reported was that she actually scheduled an early session a day or two earlier. I was really afraid that I had harmed her, that she was asking for an early session, but it turned out she wanted to report some gains. She reported that she'd had no physical pain for the last 5 days. She said she'd slept through the night every night. She's reported a series of very positive things, and I couldn't quite make sense of how much change there had been from just doing eye movements on positive imagery. I'd never seen anything like it. I'd been practicing for about 17 years at that point and been using EMDR for several years. And we discussed the changes at a regular scheduled appointment. 2 days later, we did another series of installations. And the next week she came in, she made more life changes. She made some dramatic changes. She'd been able to be assertive in a peer group in ways that she hadn't been able to stand up for herself in a confrontation. She'd confronted her boyfriend and demanded what she needed in the relationship, and he responded positively. It was just a transformation. And the following week she came in and we began doing the standard EMDR protocol on some disturbing memories that we had tried to address before and had failed, and it went smoothly with no extra work being needed on my part. It was spontaneous reprocessing. I was just completely blown away by the changes in her. Why I thought it would work before it worked, it was really desperation. And it was kind of a light bulb moment. You know, I thought, well, we see many positive things happen during the standard installation phase where things get stronger and stronger and sometimes in a way that's very transformative for people. I thought, why not just start with that on something positive, something that was already positive? And I was so impressed with the changes that Meredith made that I called Francine Shapiro and told her about it. I was very excited. I said I wanted to teach this at some of the advanced trainings that I was teaching for the EMDR Institute, the Part 2 trainings. At that time, I'd been teaching a specialty segment on how to select negative and positive cognitions. I've been doing that for several years, and it was kind of stale. It was easy. And this was much more exciting. She said, maybe it's just you. Maybe it's just your skills with hypnosis or something. So teach it once, and then get feedback from the people who were there, have them write up some cases, describe that, send that to me, and if other people get similar results, then you can begin teaching this. So that's what happened. And the other members of the teaching faculty who were in that presentation went away and tried this, and they wrote to me and described similar successes. And about a year or two after that, Phil Manfield approached me and asked me to write a chapter on it, and then people wanted me to teach a workshop, and it became a runaway success. My name is now associated with this. In 1999, I was given an award by EMDRIA and by Francine Shapiro for the development of RDI and for some of my contributions in other ways to EMDR. But the truth of the matter is, even though RDI is remarkable, I really don't use it very much in my practice. I use it when it's needed. I use the standard protocol most of the time. When clients need the resource installation, it's incredibly helpful. But I don't usually do it for very long. 1 or 2 sessions of resource work is usually all that people need. And typically it's when they have failed to respond to the standard protocol, or if they have persistently incomplete sessions and you can't get to completion. Occasionally I'll use it for clients who are unstable, clients with problems with impulse control, with anger management problems, or for clients who have problems with self-injury. So I do use RDI in those situations, but I might use it 3 or 4 or 5 times in a month, and I use the standard protocol 3 or 4 or 5 times a day. So that's what led to RDI.